Hello, everyone, and thanks for listening. So, Linda Fairstein claims When They See Us portrayal is an outright fabrication. So, she's very outraged. Our Linda Fairstein outraged over Netflix four-part series When They See Us. And so, there's several articles that are floating around all over the internet, pretty much giving up the frustration that this ex prosecutor had during the time when she was on the case of the Central Park Five. And so this is interesting, but it took me by surprise that she'd even write her own opinionated article out of Wall Street Journal. And so former prosecutor Linda Fairstein not happy with her portrayal in Ava DuVernay's Central Park 5 Netflix miniseries. So When They See Us is what it's called. And this week she wrote an op for Wall Street Journal decrying it is full of distortions and falsehoods as to be outright fabrication. So the actual facts, meanwhile, do not work out in her favor. So Miss DuVernay film attempts to portray me as an overzealous prosecutor and a bigot, the police as incompetent or worse, and the five suspects as innocent of all charges against them. So Fairstein wrote this in the Wall Street Journal, calling the miniseries a series of so full of distortions and falsehoods as to be an outright fabrication. So Fairstein goes on to detail some of DuVernay's so-called falsehoods, though the New York Times helpfully debunked some of her assertions. So, in what she called the film's most egregious falsehoods, she noted that the series depicts the teenagers as being held without food and their parents as not always being present during questioning. So, if that had been true, surely they would have brought those issues up and prevailed in pretrial hearings on the voluntariness of their statements, as well as in the lawsuit against the city, as Fairstein wrote. So they didn't because it never happened. So, in fact, according to the 2003 report on the investigation commissioned by the New York Police Department, the defendants did raise the issue in pretrial hearing, though they did not prevail. And Ms. Fairstein wrote, over convictions against the five for lesser crimes should not have been overturned. So she said that there was testimony to back up the accusations that the boys had been part of a group of more than 30 teenagers who were in Central Park that night, some of whom assaulted and robbed people. So the strength of those charges has been in dispute. So the district attorney's office in 2002 reported examining whether the convictions should be overturned, argued that the lesser crimes had been presented to the jury as part of a pattern of behavior, a pattern that included the rape. So the report also said the evidence against the five teenagers for the other attacks consisted almost entirely of defendants' statements. So the same problematic statements in which they confessed to a rape committed by someone else or somebody else rather. But the police department report said that there was no new evidence or reason to review the old evidence regarding those crimes, and noted that the two of the men had admitted their involvement in those crimes during the parole hearing. So Fairstein's involvement in the trial as then head of the Manhattan Sex Crimes Unit resulted in five teenager boys being wrongfully convicted and imprisoned for over a decade. And that is what is depicted in When They See Us, suggests that Fairstein achieved those convictions by racially profiling and coercing confessions from the five teenagers. Though When They See Us is dramatized of a case or a dramatization of a case that is not the first time the prosecution has been under scrutiny. So in 2002, the Manhattan District Attorney Office filed a report recommending that the convictions against the Central Park Five be overturned, in part because of the problems with the prosecution case. And Kevin Burns dug into Fairstein's troubling role in the trial in his 2013 documentary, Central Park 5. So the response to When They See Us, though, has been explosive, and Fairstein's portrayal, she played by Felicity, was played by, better known as Felicity Huffman in the series, has prompted calls for a boycott. So Fairstein has enjoyed the lucrative gig as a crime novelist post DA office, but her publisher dropped her when the series did air. So she has also resigned from her position on the board of the victim advocacy group Safe Horizon after staffers complained. So and though DuVernay, who is not particularly perturbed by Fairstein's response, may have taken a few minor artistic liberties with her depiction of Fairstein, Jonathan C. Moore, who represented 4 of the 5 wrongfully convicted men in the $41 million suit settled with New York City in 2014, says it captures the essence of who she was. So at no point did the police or the prosecution stop and say that these are young kids like in 8th grade. And he told the New York Times this. So do you really believe that they really are capable of committing this kind of crime? So the 5 men spent of their young lives behind bars for crimes that they did not commit. Fairstein, meanwhile, is suffering um, some minor public humiliation and professional setback for helping take those years from them. She would do better to apologize and say she learned from her mistake. She won't. So once again, I'm going to click over to the Wall Street Journal article that she wrote. So this one that I just read, Linda Fairstein claims that when she saw this movie, that she was outraged and she felt that it was a fabrication. This is written by uh, Rebecca Fishbein, and she merely is writing of the response of Linda Fairstein, so don't be mad at her. But this right here is the actual article that was taken from the opinion piece out of the Wall Street Journal. And so since I ran across it, I was very intrigued that this woman was so vain that she would even go so far as to write an opinion piece to show her disgruntledness and her outrage towards the film and how she was portrayed in this film. So Netflix false story of the Central, and this is the way she has the title. So this, who wrote this is an opinion commentary. So this is actually by the prosecutor, Linda Fairstein, herself writing this. Netflix false story of the Central Park Five. Ava DuVernay's miniseries wrongfully portrays them as totally innocent and defames me in the process. So you can see that she had wrote it, and she it goes on to say that this is by Linda Fairstein. She written this. This was put out June 10th, 2019, 7:03. Okay, so Eastern time. So at about 9 a.m., April 19, 1989, a large group of young men gathered on the corner of 119 or 110th Street and Fifth Ave for the purpose of robbing and beating innocent people in Central Park. So there were more than 30 rioters and the woman known as the Central Park jogger, Tricia Mealy, who was not their only victim. So 8 others were attacked. And so it goes on. So it says, read the full story. And so, okay, subscribe. So they're wanting me to subscribe. So actually, I don't know if, read the full story. So I read so much. So I can't read the whole article because it won't show me the whole article. But if you get a chance to see it, you can read the whole article. As a matter of fact, let me see something. I don't know. I saw this article earlier today when I was out and about, and I ran across it, and I was surprised that Linda Fairstein would go out of her way to write commentary on the Central Park Five. So it's got her so bothered that she felt the need to write her own opinion piece about it and put it out on blast. And so not only that, let me see. The Okay, I don't know if I can see it on my phone because I was going to read it. I don't know because it's asking me to. I think I read the Wall Street Journal a lot. I read a lot of, like the LA Times and everything. So I do a lot of reading. Okay, so earlier today I ran across it and I was like, wow. I said, I'm going to save this. But this woman is so angry and enraged that she took it upon herself to write basically refuting what has happened in this whole thing. So thanks for reading. Yeah, it's asking me the same thing. Yeah, so I was like, is this for me? Okay, so yeah, so so she actually, I'll just say this, you can see that she wrote her own opinion piece. Now there's more to this story here. So when I come over here, look at all of the articles. This is the one right here that she wrote out of the Wall Street Journal, and this was a day ago. ICM Partners drops Linda Fairstein as Central Park 5 prosecutor rages. So she is so enraged by this movie, this prosecutor lady, who is an ex-prosecutor and she turned writer, crime writer, that she has took it upon herself to write, let's get bad, to write how she feels that this movie portrayed her in a false manner. So ICM Partners drops Linda Fairstein as Central Park 5 prosecutor rages against Ava DuVernay in the When They See Us miniseries. And so this is her pictured here. ICM Partners has dropped her. So under public scrutiny for her actions of 3 decades ago, the New York prosecutor is facing consequences and lashing out. So she's been lashing out. So she wrote this. I saw part of the article, and so I was like, wow, this lady's really angry. So Linda Fairstein has been dropped by her publisher. So she's a crime writer. And so if you even look her up, you'll see she has several crime novels. And so she's been making money off of that. And so the publisher decided to drop her. So ex-Manhattan Deputy District Attorney who spurred the prosecution of the eventually exonerated Central Park 5 has been shown the door by her Hollywood literary agency ICM Partners over Netflix When They See Us. So this comes as Fairstein lashed out last night through the Wall Street Journal at Ava DuVernay and the Netflix acclaimed series as an outright fabrication for its depiction of the shameful series of judicial events 3 decades ago and Fairstein pivotal roles in them. So ICM has cut ties with Fairstein after several years, I've learned. So the agency represented the lawyer in her post-prosecution career. And so as the best-selling author, so she has several novels. Even if you Google them, you'll see them. They're all on Amazon, her novels. So best-selling author of over a dozen mystery novels featuring fictional Manhattan Deputy DA Alexandra Cooper. So the 1996 offering Final Jeopardy was adopted into a TV movie for ABC in 2001, starring Dana Delaney as Cooper. And so ICM did not respond for a request of comment from the deadline on the matter of Fairstein or Fairstein. She hasn't commented as well. So this is the latest in a row of exits for the ex-prosecutor who is portrayed as Felicity Huffman in DuVernay's limited series since When They See Us has launched on Netflix May 31st. So publisher Dutton severed ties with the former longtime head of Manhattan DA Sex Crimes Unit last week, and ex-Harvey Weinstein consultant Fairstein has exited her participation in a number of nonprofits and seen calls for previous honors to be rescinded. So created co-penned and directed by Selma Helmer DuVernay. When They See Us, harrowing saga of the exonerated five stars Huffman, Michael K. Williams, and Vera Farmiga, John Leguizamo, among others. These are some of the actors that were in the actual four-part series. So the four-part runs from the parts that run from 1989, when the five Harlem teens were incorrectly convicted for the first in the media and then twice in the courts, and by the brutal rape of the Central Park jogger in 2014, when Santana, Antron McCrae, and Kevin Richardson, Yusef Salem, and Corey Wise saw their names finally cleared. So serial rapist and murderer Matias Reyes confessed to the attacks in 2001 while behind bars for another crime, and his statements were confirmed by the DNA evidence and the knowledge of the scene. So Reyes was never prosecuted for the crimes because the New York statute of limitations on the such sex crimes had expired in 1989 to the incident. So looking at the potential prison time for her participation in the college admission scandal, Huffman plays Fairstein as the by any means necessary prosecutor determined to see the young men punished quickly and harshly. So it is a depiction of Fairstein today that took extreme umbrage with the Wall Street Journal opted late yesterday. So I believe it meant outrage. I've never heard umbrage, but calling When They See Us full of distortions and falsehoods and an outrage. So her first significant response of the series. So Fairstein goes on to say, Miss DuVernay does not define me, and her film does not speak the truth. So DuVernay responded, the Wall Street Journal opted with the tears expected and typical. Okay, so onward the social media this morning. So having just off an Oprah hosted FYC event the weekend at Netflix Campaign HQ, When They See Us is expected to be the major contender in this year's Emmy race. And so that's pretty much that article right there. So that's the response. It's like it's basically what it's saying is that she knows that this ex-prosecutor, Linda Fairstein, was going to respond with that type of negativity. In other words, that's what it sounds like through the message, is what I'm relaying, and that it's to be expected, and that it was typical, and that she was going to pretty much deny the claims that were put out in the movie, and even if it was noted that the DNA evidence showed that these boys were innocent. So what do you think about this story? Because this was pretty riveting, and it's been talked about all over Twitter, all over social media, and what have you. And so with that being said, this was the article that Wall Street Journal, the opinion piece that Linda Fairstein put out. And so this is pretty bold. And you can see her name, at least show you that. Her name is under here. And so she just not that long ago, what was yesterday, she did this. And so this says a lot about how she felt about, we know how she felt about that movie outside of what other people were feeling. So what do you think about this? With that being said, wow, that, after all these years, this woman is still claiming that these boys, she feels that they were guilty. And we know what we saw. We know how we feel. Well, I guess I will let each person to their own judgment. And so with that being said, like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for listening. Wow, this was pretty deep.